remember driving a boat fast, not thinking at all about what I was leaving behind me, until I looked behind me and saw this huge wake rolling out behind the boat. We don't feel our own wake, but our wake is what everyone else feels. And a lot of the time we don't even realise we're creating it. And it seems stress spreads the same way. We might be leaving a stress wake behind us. It's the emotional impact we leave behind us. Take a moment to think about this. If someone followed you through your day, what would they feel? And what I find fascinating is that this stress wake is actually measurable. You know, scientists can check things like heart rates, cortisol, even brain activity. And when people start spending time together, their nervous systems start to sync up, literally. Not just, I can tell you're stressed. It's more like, my body is responding as if your stress was happening to me. You know, and from a survival perspective, this makes sense. You know, if someone in your prehistoric cave spots a saber-toothed cat, it's not exactly the moment to stay completely relaxed and chill. Yeah, that wouldn't have turned out well for our ancestors. So instead, we develop this remarkable ability to link up. You know, you might have noticed this in meetings. People start speaking a little faster, interrupting a little more, thinking a little less clearly, and no one announced they were stressed, but somehow everyone joined in. That's contagion at work. Which puts a different lens on the statistic that almost 80% of Australian and New Zealand employees are experiencing symptoms of burnout. You know, we look at that and think, wow, that's a lot of individuals struggling. But stress doesn't live just within us. It accumulates across teams, it amplifies across departments, and it becomes the baseline state of an organisation. How much of the stress in your workplace might actually be spreading between people? You know, it might be 80% of people who are actually operating in systems that are already running hot. You know, if everybody's driving their boat fast, the wakes get very big and it becomes unsafe to be out there. And this matters even more if you're seen as a leader, because research in what's been called the ripple effect, how emotions spread measurably through teams, shows something striking. A leader's emotional state affects their team's performance, cooperation, and quality of decision making, much more than most leaders realise. You know, if you walk into a room tense, activated, hurried, your whole team tightens with you. Walk in calm, and your team settles. Your state sets the tone. So if our nervous systems are this contagious, it might be worth knowing what state we are walking into the room with. Take a photo to find out. It's a 3-minute questionnaire that you can do later. And perhaps the simplest and most powerful thing we can do as leaders is to settle ourselves before we walk into the room. But here's the problem. We're very good at activating our nervous systems. We're much less practiced at bringing them back down. Our nervous system needs a signal to become calm. So maybe we need a simple way to give it that signal. Luckily, we already have one. At the beginning of the talk, we did the big sigh. Let's do another big sigh together. Right, I said big, not the barely audible sigh. Let's do 110% big sigh together. Right, well done. Now, when I lived in Australia, I noticed they have a bit of a tradition of big things. The big banana, the big prawn, The big fake news about the origins of pavlova. So Australia would be likely to build a monument for the big sigh. Our real big sigh is not as impressive to look at, but it may be more useful. When we did that long, loud exhale, we weren't just making a loud noise for fun. A long exhale tells our body we are safe. A long exhale is something that's difficult to do if you're being chased by a saber-toothed cat. But it's easy to exhale after a lovely roast mammoth back in the safety of the cave. A long exhale activates our rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system. And that works even during a stressful workday. A long exhale slows our heart rate and it allows our body to recover from stress. But we don't have to wait for the day to go completely pear-shaped for our body to sigh automatically. We can do it on purpose. In the car, after something difficult happens, and before we open the door to the meeting. Just a slow inhale, a tiny top up to fully open the lungs, and a long exhale. The big sigh, simple. No apps, no yoga mats. Just intentionally doing something we already naturally do. Now, I've been a bit sneaky today. I've intentionally done the big sigh in this talk to settle my own nervous system, so I don't send out a stress wake to you. And I've made you all do the big sigh, so there's no stress wake tsunami coming back towards me. And because a calm nervous system allows your body and your brain to fully take on board the messages I want to share. So here's what I want you to take from today. Burnout doesn't just come from stress. It comes from stress that doesn't get settled. Each of us is leaving a wake behind us, and the people around us feel it, whether we notice it or not. So before the next meeting, before the next conversation, before you open the door when you get home, do the big sigh. Settle yourself first. Because watching my wired little baby finally settle on his grandfather's chest was the moment that I understood. The stress or calm we bring is more contagious than we know. The one thing we can actually change is the wake we leave behind us. Thank you.